You both have to enter together, said his father, and he felt helpless in front of his parents. Nodding, he went to their side and opened his side door of the car. His cousins come forward and took them out of the car. Standing together, both were not understanding that, how to adjust with their new relation. Come inside, his mother said, and they both stepped into the house. They were made him stay together on the sofa, and all of the relatives greeted them and wished them for their coming life. Jimin, take your brother-in-law to her Taehyung room, said Miss John. He was again made up to stand up like a statue, and few were taking them to her husband's room. But their feet stopped on what he heard. I'm going back, he said while standing up. But you're on leave, right? And you just got married, Jungkook, his father said, looking at his son, who was still in his uniform, looking so handsome. Sorry, Dad, but I have to go, he said, and he turned to see him, who was at the same time turned to his eyes, who got tangled with that boy, who was looking at him with pearl-like tears in his eyes. Both keep looking at each other for a few seconds, when Mr. John interrupted and made them look away. It's not good, son. You have done this married, so now fulfill it. Taehyung is a nice boy, son, his father said once again, and his eyes moved to Tae, who was standing with lowered head, and he could not see how he was stopping his tears to come out. I'll come in a week and take my wife with me, he said, and Tae's eyes moved up to see him, who was already looking at him, to look at him and move out. It's been 3 days since he left. Tae was living in the room in his wife, and Tae was all quiet in all these days. His mind and heart was fighting against that betrayal. The God they didn't have, remember, who left him behind like nothing, but his mind was again and again recalling him, his word, and it was hurting him more. On the other hand, he felt bad about entering someone else's life when he knew he could not give anything to him. How can you do this to me? How can you leave me like this? How will I leave now? They said, looking up at the skies filled with the stars. But his mind was showing the picture of that man who betrayed him in front of all. Never would thought that turned to his life, but now it was living each and every moment, which was filled with the pain and tears. Taehyung. They turned on the voice and saw his mother-in-law standing. Yes, Uma, they said, and turned and tried to hide his tears that were shining in his eyes. Pack your luggage. Jungkook is coming and he said he would stay only for a few hours here, and then he has to go back there. He's coming to take you with him, said Miss John. I don't want to go, Uma, slowly he said and looked down and foamed. Don't blame yourself for that stupid person who didn't care about you once and ran away. My Jungkook is not like his elder brother. He's more responsible and loving, said Miss John, and started to pack his luggage, while he would just keep standing there thinking what his life was taking him. At evening, the car was going with the speed, but there was fully silence in the car. Both persons were lost in their own thoughts. They were together yet so far away from each other. They was getting scared. His heart was still not accepting all this. He didn't want to go with the man who was now his husband. After that drive of 7 hours, they reached. Soon the car moved to the army area. Flats were made there, and the door opening the car entered that area running a huge road. They could see the park and the gardens around the houses. The car stopped in front of the house and stepped out. After they stepping out of the car, meet for a second, but they both looked away. Taking the luggage, he went, while he followed him to the house. Without saying, he took his luggage in the room, and without telling Tae anything, he left from there. They were standing in the middle of the apartment, feeling strange. Tears once again found their way out. They was not understanding all. He knew he could not have that much importance to anyone, and especially to the person's life who brought him here. But now, without telling anything, the door was closed by himself, and he moved to the room with tears in his eyes. Spending almost all the night at the army base, he was somewhere trying to avoid to go home. He was practicing Rome and shooting the target one by one, but his mind was tangled with all the problems were running in his life. Young man, he stopped when his general there. I hear you got married, said General, and Jungkook gave a nod, but didn't say anything. Congrats, young man. And I heard you brought him here with you. Your wife. Then what are you doing here at the late? When it's not your duty horse, said General. But Jungkook didn't say anything and kept standing there silently. You're doing wrong by accepting, I know, all this. How could you leave him alone on the day you just took him here? You must be scared. And I was thinking you should go home now, said General, and nodded. He's placing the gun on the table. Yes, sir, saying he walked out of there and saluting his officer. As he reached home, it was 3 of the night. Signing, he unlocked the door and stepped in. He took slow steps toward the room as he entered and found him sitting on the sofa, hugging his knees and hiding his face in the arm, suppressing something wrong. He moved closer to him. Excuse me, he said to take his attention, but no answer. Taehyung, he called this time, but no answer. He felt cold in the room, and that was December coin. He was sitting there without any blanket on. Taehyung, shaking him a little, he called again, and this time he moved closer to Tae, who was not in his sense. His face was turning red. Touching his forehead, he tried to check the temperature, and the hand touched the forehead. It burned. His eyes pointed. Oh God, he has a fever. Mumbling to himself, he took him in his arm, and without any other thought, he brought him to the bed. Taehyung, taking him toward the bed, he called him and came. He lost his conscience. What I did, cursing himself under the bed, he made him lay on the bed and took a seat in front of him. Please, got up, he said while rubbing his hand, but there was no response, taking the blanket to the cover and went to another blanket. Covering hide their 2 blankets but still roaming the room while their eyes were on shivering with cold, and he knew it was his fault leaving him all in one new place. How can I do this? Crawling himself again, he went closer to him and again rested his head on the forehead to check his temperature, which was still high. What to do? He asked himself again, start roaming in the room. 2 hours passed, but the shivering of that body didn't end, and he felt tense. Without any other thought, he took the mobile and dialed that number to call the doctor.